Hello, and thanks for joining us. This is The World Now. We'll begin in Africa, where Lesotho will be holding a parliamentary election on Friday amid failures by its politicians to pass constitutional reforms meant to end years of political instability. The All Basotho Convention, ABC, has been ruling the country since 2017, but divisions within the party have led to the emergence of two prime ministers over 5 years. Of them, Thomas Tabane stepped down in 2020 after being charged with the murder of his ex-wife. He denied any wrongdoing and the charges were later dropped. His successor, Prime Minister Mweketsi Majoro, declared a state of emergency in August after legislators failed to pass two bills meant to end political crisis in parliament. The rejected bills were targeted at making Lesotho less prone to political logjams, but lawmakers failed to welcome it. The ruling ABC party has selected another leader, former Health Minister Nkaku Kabi, to contest the ticket. Lesotho has been experiencing political instability for years. Latest riot in Ecuador's troubled prison system has led to the killing of at least 15 prisoners and the injuring of many. 14 of the injured persons have been taken to hospital. More than 400 inmates have died in prison violence since February 2021 in Ecuador, which the government of conservative President Guillermo Lasso has attributed to gang warfare over control of territories and drug trafficking routes. Official figures say there are about 33,500 people in Ecuador's prison, which are 11.3% beyond maximum capacity. And in Asia, victims and families of 125 people killed in an Indonesian stadium stampede are demanding answers and justice over the deaths of their loved ones on Saturday. The stampede occurred at the stadium in Malang Regency of the country after the home team of Arema lost to Persibaya in an Indonesian league football match. According to local media, supporters of the losing home team climbed over the fence and entered the football pitch, resulting in clashes with police and a stampede. Reporters say riots fired tear gas at the chaotic crowds, which caused panic among the people who rushed to leave the stadium, leading to a stampede at an exit gate. Authorities say 18 police officers who fired the tear gas are now in questioning. Indonesian President Joko Widodo has ordered to launch an investigation into the matter, but he says the priority right now is providing care and support to the victims still in recovery. And we're staying in Asia, where reports say North Korea has fired a suspected missile over Japan. The ballistic missile traveled about 4,500 kilometers before falling into the Pacific Ocean. It allegedly fell into a place far enough to hit the U.S. island of Guam if it took another trajectory. Some watchers of the relationship between both nations say North Korea's action appears to be a deliberate escalation of violence to get the attention of Japan and the U.S. It is the first North Korean missile launch over Japan since 2017. The launch saw Japan issue a rare alert to some citizens to take cover. The UN prohibits North Korea from testing ballistic and nuclear weapons. Flying missiles towards or over other countries without any pre-warning or consultation also contravenes international norms. Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida described the launch as a violent behavior, while the country's defense minister said Japan would not rule out any options to strengthen its defenses, including counterattack capabilities. The U.S. and South Korea have been working together to strengthen their defenses in response to the growing threat posed by North Korea. Ukrainian troops have retaken more territory in regions illegally annexed by Russia, with Kyiv as they advance towards the southern city of Kherson, consolidating gains in the east. Russian officials in Kherson have confirmed the advance, but say Moscow soldiers are digging in. But fierce fighting is being reported in Donetsk. We have more details here.
As the armed forces of Ukraine continue to liberate settlements on the Kharkiv-Luhansk line, fierce battles are taking place on the front line of the Donetsk region. The battles revolve around three cities: Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and Ecuador. The Russian occupiers are storming Ukrainian
Обстрілів може
positions
бути
or
30
using
силами.
artillery. But most of these assaults are unsuccessful. Ukrainian aviation is also attacking Russian fighters in the Donbas region.
President Volodymyr Zelenskiy has signed a decree on Tuesday, formally declaring the prospect of any Ukrainian talks with the Russian leader, Vladimir Putin, impossible, but leaving the door open to talks with Russia. The decree formalized comments made by Zelensky on Friday after the Russian president proclaimed 4 occupied regions of Ukraine to be part of Russia in what Ukraine and the West said was an illegitimate farce. President Putin, who turned 70 this week, has dominated Russia's political landscape for more than 2 decades and could run for office 2 more times under constitutional reforms he presided over to potentially remain in power until 2036. Let's turn attention now to the weather challenge in the United States as Hurricane Ian cleanup takes place across the southwestern Florida region. Some schools are closed indefinitely, and there are still many questions as to when they will open. The President and Vice President of the United States have pledged to support victims of the disaster, and we have more details in this report.
The death toll from Hurricane Ian has reportedly risen to nearly 99 in Florida as rescue personnel continue to search for survivors. Officials in the United States have come under fire as critics allege residents in some hard-hit areas did not receive enough advance warning to evacuate. More than half of the deaths recorded are in Lee County, where Ian made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane. President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris have promised assistance.
My administration is working closely with the CBC members to do whatever it takes to help search and rescue, recovery, and rebuilding. It's going to take a long time, so we cannot tire. Whatever it takes, I mean it, whatever it takes.
I know that all of us also have in mind the people of Puerto Rico and Florida and South Carolina. And as President Biden has said, we will stand by you for as long as it takes.
Although deaths relating to Hurricane Ian in Florida differ, many of the deaths have been reported in Lee County. Governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, described the county as ground zero for the hurricane. Sarasota County schools are closed as crews clean up and make repairs. The county's superintendent, Dr. Brennan Asplin, says at least half the schools are still without power.
We have teams of our maintenance crews, number 1, going around assessing damage, and then we have our custodial staff. They're all over the district right now, cleaning schools and doing what they can to get us back to where we need to be.
Plus, there are personal staff needs.
We have staff that have lost houses, part of their homes, staff that have been isolated.
The district is also running 2 shelters for community residents.
We're still helping about, over 100 clients here who have medically dependent needs such as oxygen and or electricity. So before we can close this shelter down, we either have to have a place to move these folks to.
With all the district is juggling, parents like Velisa Donato are still understanding.
Sometimes you forget how intricate everybody's jobs may be. It's not as simple as it looks.
Patience is just what the district leaders are asking as they walk through the coming days.
We're working through this as quickly as we can, trying to do the right thing and make it safe for everybody.
Meanwhile, officials say EF1 tornado ripped through northern Arizona, causing damages to homes. The Coconino County Sheriff's Office says between 8 to 10 homes in the Jonapine Estates community were damaged. The National Weather Service reported winds in the area ranging between 86 to 110 miles per hour.
Thanks for staying with us, and we are back in Africa, where Lesotho will be holding parliamentary elections this Friday amid failures by the parliament to pass constitutional reforms meant to bring political stability to that country. And joining me now to speak more on elections coming up in Lesotho, I'm being joined by the publisher Inside Watch Africa, Sheyi Adeyemo. Good to have you join us.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So let me get your thoughts on the on the current situation in Lesotho. About 50 political parties will be contesting this election. We've seen issues around the kind of politics in parliament in Lesotho. how coalition in that parliament has failed. What do you make of that? The fact that 50 political parties will be contesting election, and what do you expect the outcome to be?
Okay, I mean, as an African, I'm a little worried that 56 years after independence, in a country that has a population that is less than 3 million, we're having a problem like this. But I'm hopeful, because it is better to be forward-looking than to completely lose hope and say that no good can come out of this. My prayer and expectation is that the people of Lesotho will come out in their numbers to vote and take advantage of another opportunity that is being offered them to elect in those who can properly put the legislation and the structure that can allow peace. It is not something that one can rejoice on, that the country has had more than 4 coups since its independence. And up until now, they are unable to at least just pass in a legislation that will allow for a proper, a political system in the country, because it will be better that you don't allow for cross-carpeting and the kind of rancor that has gone on for so many years. In 5 years, we had 2 prime ministers, and all of that for me is not something to be happy, about. But like I said again, one is just hopeful that the people of Lesotho will come out and they will vote the right candidate in that can do the right thing for the country.
How do you expect the turnout to be, bearing in mind that in 2017, it was just about 46% of the registered voters that turned up. And now when you look at the power play, two prime ministers in 5 years, the unstable coalition and acrimony in parliament, do you think that we might see some level of voter apathy?
I mean, like I said earlier, one would hope. Yes, the indicators are that people might be discouraged, but I would have expected that you see from the angle of this is the only way that you can bring in the right person or the right government, that can rule them and change their destiny. So voter apathy, yes, would be expected, but I think that's not the right thing to do. So I would expect, and as an African, I'm praying and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that the people of Lesotho will come out in their numbers and take advantage of this opportunity that is being offered them on Friday to come out in large numbers so that they can vote in the right political leader that can change the future and lot of the country.
But without these reforms, and one of them is the 11th Amendment of the Constitutional Bill 2022. The other is the National Assembly Electoral Bill, and both bills were meant to drive reforms in electoral process, as well as also address provisions around political parties and the crossings in the parliament. Without these reforms, how do you expect the elections to guarantee political stability in Lesotho?
I think one of the positive things to look at is the fact that at least they're still obeying court orders. You recall that the Prime Minister advised the King to call for a state of emergency that is called for, but the court overruled that, and that has been obeyed. And that gives hope that at least the law is being respected. And so the fact that the law is respected is a good indicator that if only they can come out in their numbers and vote, we would have something that can, help to keep the country, on track. Because for whatever it was, I think it would be not right for all of us throwing the towel at this junction and say, oh, nothing good can come out of this. The truth is, laws are still being obeyed. The court rules are still being obeyed, and that, in my opinion, gives a sense of hope, and that we can only hope that that would sort of encourage the parties. And the fact that 50 political parties are getting involved, it shows that I mean, there's a sense of hope that they believe that if, they must be that they have hope. That's why all of them are joining in the process. So for me, that gives some sense of hope, and I think all of us should just hold on.
But doesn't that also mean that we might see some sort of runoff, or we might also see the parties without no party without any majority in parliament, again leading to these unstable coalitions? And then let me also ask you, because we've seen the SADC, which is the Southern Africa Development Community, expressing frustrations with these reforms. The SADC has been the one mediating these reforms, and have expressed frustration with how it has gone. No party in particular, whilst they say they are committed to the reforms, but no political party has said this is exactly how they will carry out the reforms if they are majority in parliament. Do you expect the SADC to continue to mediate, bearing in mind its frustrations with the process?
I mean, SADC does not have a choice. South Africa surrounds Lesotho, and like we always say in Africa, if you know that somebody is going to affect your being satisfied with your food, when you're preparing your food, whatever visitor the person is, make sure you prepare that person's food, along making your food. Because if you don't, the person will short ration you and you will not be satisfied. So my advice would be that the SADC would continue in their mediation, because at the end of the day, when everything goes bad, it will directly affect them. For instance, I mean, the water that is, the good water that is being enjoyed in Johannesburg comes from some of, the mountains that is in Lesotho. So, as it were, one can, easily say that the destiny of the South African country is sort of directly tied to that of Lesotho. So, I mean, when something affects you directly, you don't have a choice. Even though the indicators on ground is frustrating, the fact that they've taken a couple of steps and that has met with brick walls, they don't have a choice other than to try. So that at the end of the day, I mean, the good that will come out of this will be for everyone.
Well, we're keeping our eyes on that election on Friday. I will see the robust interventions that the SADC and the international community will make in Lesotho. Thank you so much for talking to us, Sheyi Adeyemo.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Let's turn our attention now to the United Kingdom, where Dunfermline, an ancient capital of Scotland, has been conferred city status by King Charles III after carrying out his first official visit as monarch. During a short walkabout in the city at a burial place for medieval kings, including Robert the Bruce, who fought off an English invasion 700 years ago, the king was greeted by a large crowd. In a short speech at the city chambers to mark his elevation to city status, the king said he and his wife Camilla, the queen consort, were immensely proud to be able to share the historic moment. The patent letters making Dunfermline a city was in his mother's name. Plans had been underway before her death for Queen Elizabeth to make the announcement. Dunfermline was one of 8 communities given the honor as part of the late Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebrations. To the economy of the United Kingdom, the British government is reversing plans to scrap the highest rate of income tax after a rebellion among lawmakers and a week of financial and economic turmoil. In a statement on Monday, Finance Minister Kwasi Kwarteng said the tax cut for people earning more than £150,000 had become a distraction from the government's wider package of measures to tackle the energy crisis and to reduce taxes more broadly in his efforts to end years of economic challenges. The announcement marks a major and abrupt climb down for the UK's new Prime Minister Liz Truss, whose government proposed sweeping tax cuts, which included slashing the top rate of income tax to 40% from 45%. Senior Tory members want the Prime Minister to give up on deep cuts to public spending, especially welfare, in the middle of the cost of living crisis. Truss says the government has not yet made a decision on whether benefits will be raised in line with inflation. Cabinet Minister Penny Mordaunt has thrown her support behind an inflation-equaling rise in welfare. Speaking to newsmen during a visit in Birmingham, where the Tories are holding their annual conference, she said there will be further discussions about the way forward on commitments like benefits and how to deal with future budgets.
Kwasi Kwarteng will address the conference. He'll stress the government.
Well, what we've done is we have listened to what people said on this issue. It wasn't a core part of our growth plan. What our growth plan is focused on is helping people with energy bills, getting business moving, and we're here at this fantastic new development in Birmingham, creating jobs for the future. That's what the plan is about. It was becoming a distraction, so that's why we immediately changed that policy, and that's the kind of government we are. We do respond when there are concerns, and we act quickly.
And I was around in 2019, we got 9% in the European elections. That was only 6 months ahead of getting our best result in a general election since 1987. So I think we should all take stock of the polls, obviously, but they aren't the be-all and end.